Hello, I'm Betty Ann Mochek, an artist and professor of art at Concordia University, Chicago. This is a narrated PowerPoint or gallery walk around my one-person show of over 40 new works of art entitled Observations, all inspired by my sabbatical stay in New York City, Minneapolis and Chicago too. But they're not about New York City per se. They are about life and the pulse of the American city and its people, expressed in drawings, mixed media, and prints. I've also stretched into 2 new media, showing photographs and video for the very first time. These are not your typical over-the-couch skyline scenes. I hope you can smell the city, any city, in this show, and feel the pace, the energy, and truths these works attempt to reveal. This particular series on these 5 panels has to do with interpretations, of course, of the water tower, but also the energy of the city. It moves on into a complete water tower influenced series.
I am doing very well. How are you?
The first piece is called Gold Medal at Night. It's a mixed media work, spray paint, pastel, charcoal, on board, and it's 24 inches high by 18 inches wide. Actually influenced by a night scene in Minneapolis of the gold medal flower grain elevator building that is turned into a museum. Very interesting renditions or things I saw when I was in Minneapolis. Next we have water tower in browns, mixed media on Yupo paper. That's a particular transparent kind of watercolor, almost plastic paper. Mixed media meaning spray paint, pastel, pencil, etc. 26 inches high by 21 inches wide. This next piece is 46 inches high by 24 inches wide. It is an acrylic painting and charcoal mixed media called Crosswalk Bicyclist. This piece is called Tower with Night Sky. It's a hand-colored monotype, meaning the underlayment parts were created painting on a plexiglass plate, run through a printing press, very ghost-like image, and then I worked back into it with acrylic and such, paint and things. White tower and streetlight, acrylic and charcoal on board. It's 31 inches high by 21 inches wide. This suite of works particularly deals with my examination and re-examination of the concept of water towers, the 12 to 17,000 that exist in New York City. The first particular piece to take a look at is Black Tower and Stencil. It's a hand-cut paper stencil that I created to actually create the next piece. And I liked the stencil so much when I was finished that I re-inked it and thought it worthy of matting and framing. So Black Tower and Stencil is a hand-cut stencil. It's 23 inches high by 19 inches wide. Next to it, Urban One Tower is the print that came from rolling ink through the negative cutout spaces of the stencil. And it's meant to be a bit murky, a bit rough, and that's Urban One Tower stencil print, 23 inches high by 19 inches wide. And then next to it is yet another reinterpretation. There is a bit of the stencil you can see reminiscent in the very far background. A bit of the leftover ink from that stencil print. I created a ghost image, and Tower Scribble was created. Take that ghost image and then energetically recreate the feeling of the water tower, the building, and such, in a very abstracted way. The next piece, Tower Takedown, is a photograph, archival inkjet print, 20 high by 16 inches wide, viewing men deinstalling an old water tower, and it was about quite a distance up, 8-9 stories, and that's a photograph. Some of the things I observed which inspired me to create the water tower pieces. Looking up is a small pen piece, 12 inches high by 12 inches wide, a pen drawing. Below you find row houses, a pen piece 12 inches high by 12 inches wide. We move from the small pen drawings or sketches to something called Urban 2. It's a monotype. The painting was done directly on plexiglass, Then pre-soaked paper was put on top of it. It was run through an etching press with some felt that created pressure. I peeled off the print, and the reverse image becomes this, in fact, image, painting, and monotype. It is 23 inches high by 19 inches wide. Next to it is Tower in Green Wash. It's a simple watercolor done with watercolor paint, but also something called Carandash watercolor sticks, crayon type thing. So you can see some of the painterliness of the brush stroke, as well as a little more of the accurate line that would come from a crayon-like substance, though watercolor. Foghorn Bridge Towers is next. It's an acrylic and pencil piece, 23 inches high by 19 inches wide. Acrylic and pencil. This wall is a kind of themes and variations wall. We start out, of course, once, as you can see throughout the show, my love of line, and that is the first three pieces. Then we move into kind of the transit suite, the energy of the commuter world, and then we end with the people, the crowd and individual. But right here we have something called Zadar. It shows the hanging clothes and buildings juxtaposed on a little street scene, actually from Zadar, Croatia. A colleague of mine was there for a Fulbright stay and sent me back some photographs knowing my love of hanging clothes and buildings, and it inspired me to create the Zadar study. It is a watercolor and pencil, 29 inches high by 22 inches wide. This linoleum cut, Ardmore Alley, is a linoleum, as I said, print, 16 inches high by 20 inches wide. Influenced by a number of scenes in Chicago, my nephew John Roberts' back alleyway of an apartment area that he lived in on the north side. And of course, I embellish and create everything from the hanging clothes to the person walking to the water tower and such. Celebration of Line moves into the next small little drawing called Roadmap, done in pen, 12 inches high by 12 inches wide. We move to the next little mini suite, starting with a photograph, Car 5142. It's an archival inkjet photograph in black and white, 16 inches high by 20 inches wide. Station 1 is my rendition of an elevated scene, done in pen, a brown and black pen, 12 inches high by 12 inches wide. From that drawing comes a reinterpretation in linoleum, where a linoleum cut has been made, ink has been rolled on the surface of whatever was not cut, and thus spoon rubbed and printed, turned into a linoleum print. Station 2, 12 inches high by 12 inches wide. We move into the people of the city, a crowd scene, a simple watercolor, again with Carandash watercolor sticks and or brushes. Watercolor scene called Crowd Scene, 12 inches high by 14 inches wide. The next piece is Rush Hour, a pen drawing, Rush Hour pen drawing, 12 inches high by 12 inches wide. In a way, I can't remember which came first. Was it the pen drawing? Was it the watercolor? I don't know. My interpretations of the energy and crowd on the streets in New York City. And then the individual, 161st Street, which is the stop for Yankee Stadium, and my fun little drummer, mixed media monotype. Once again, a print underlaid that I painted on plexi, ran through a printing press, and then I worked on it to make it more of a one-of-a-kind, even than a monotype. 23 inches high by 18 inches wide. This wall establishes two suites actually, but a whole suite involved in something called, really I'm dealing with the repetition of the windows, the shadows, the overlay. Again, the rear view scene from my apartment, which I was very, very influenced by. This particular one is called Rear View Day. It is a very large 40-inch high by 57-inch wide photograph that has been printed on canvas, taken and then tweaked in Photoshop, of course. So it's an art piece in and of itself, to give people and establish the scene that I was influenced by. Moving from that scene, I move into two renditions, two charcoal pieces that I worked on site. In the evening, by little light, by my little window. The top particular piece is called Rear View with LGA, and that's LaGuardia Airport tag, which mentions when I got there, which was March of 2014. It's 18 high by 14 inches wide, and it's charcoal. Just below it's another charcoal piece, 20 inches high by 16 inches wide, and that is called Rear View. Again, both done on site in my apartment, looking at and kind of influenced, of course, by and reinterpreting the scene to the left and the scenes you'll be seeing throughout the show. Here is that sense of window blind that I looked through many times called View Through Blinds, acrylic on canvas, 30 high by 23 wide. Peering through the window, looking what's beyond. And windows in browns and reds is what's to the right of that piece. As you can see, it's a combination of pastel and spray paint, creating that overlap of shadows and light and shifting shadows and light. It's 24 inches high by 46 inches wide. Next to that, you see a 52-inch high by 37-inch wide canvas piece that's done with graphite. It's basically like little shavings of a pencil, but powdered. Some water added to it, and you can use it as a painting technique or medium, as well as smearing with fingers and other tools. Windows with shadows, graphite 52 inches high by 37 inches wide. These all, a few of them are suspended, connected to a 1x2 framework behind them and Velcroed, allowing the sense of rawness to appear as they do in real life. And so it's not encapsulated by glass or frame on purpose. These are a suite of works, all influenced by a particular scene at night from behind my apartment window. This particular night scene, the concept of shadows, the repetition of line, the sense of light. In photographic form, a large inkjet photo, printed 40 inches high by 57 inches wide. Thought that it would be dynamic, exhibiting it that large and almost somewhat realistic feeling. The color juxtaposed with the black and white in that gangway portion, very interesting to me. Moving from it, some of the work that was influenced by it, a black and white acrylic rendition, abstracted, of the same scene, that's Rear View in blacks, acrylic on canvas. It's about 24 by 30 inches. Next to it is a small linoleum print, 12 inches high by 12 inches wide, back window. Next to it is Upbeat Town, another linoleum print, 12 inches high by 12 inches wide in its full environment. Rendition of buildings behind the scenes, water towers. Here is Back View, a penwork 12 by 12. Again, the repetition of that behind back window view. We move from that into a first ever art video created by myself and Adam Walker. Blu-ray disc playing on a continual loop. It's just under 5 minutes long, and headsets are to be put on because there's a lot of sound in it. This is an exciting wall. It's showing my photographs for the very first time, along with some other photos in the show, and this establishes my worker series. I felt it was a way to express the human form and the energy and the love and the commitment of the regular everyday worker. That's what these photographs are about, and I can establish and express that best in photography, I feel. And that was a big step to share publicly. We begin by Pizza Man, an archival inkjet print, a photograph tweaked in Photoshop, 16 inches high by 20 inches wide. From Little Italy, as a matter of fact, in New York City. Cabby is another photograph, 16 inches high by 20 inches wide. Shows that individual worker reflected in his rearview mirror. I call them chicken chopper or whatever, but it's really titled Chinatown. 16 inches high by 20 inches wide. I wanted to show a drawing because that's how I came about doing the photographs. The drawing is of a Zabar's worker, well-known deli on New York's west side, West Manhattan, and the worker's taking a break, but I did sketches and things, and I realized that I could not go beyond the simple sketch, that the photographs were telling the story more exclusively or more specifically, so I was excited to say, hey, let's show the photographs. Kind of inspirational to me. Bakery Woman, Little Odessa, a wonderful part of New York City. And again, this is a photograph 16 inches high by 20 inches wide. Studying sparks. I was sitting up actually getting my shoe shined in my favorite shoe shine shop, looking down, and here were the guys working, sharpening tools and things, getting ready to do some shoe cobblering. And I thought, how wonderful. Again, a photograph 16 high by 20 wide. This wall ends with Fine and Shapiro, the name of a particular Jewish deli. Archival inkjet photograph, 16 inches high by 20 inches wide.
And I got my hand. And I got my hand. And I got my hand. And I got my hand.
Should have done it.